Hello, welcome to the latest live stream from SeahawksDraftBlog.com and the Rebuild Podcast. Rob Staton with you here. I'm going to go through a two-round NFL mock draft. Please just remember, before I get into this mock draft, that you are going to disagree with every single person's mock draft on the internet. I'm going to get some picks right, and I'm going to get some picks wrong. You don't have to take it personally. I have not studied team needs in great depth for all 32 teams. I've tried to do the best job that I can. And this is the mock draft that I'm going to present to you today. If you want to throw in a question at any point, if you want to interrupt the mock draft, then feel free. All you've got to do is send in a super chat. We'll read those out as we are going along. I might chuck in a few questions towards the end as well, do a bit of a Q&A, but super chats will get priority. So here we go. The format is going to be two rounds, as I mentioned. I will give analysis on each pick. I might spend a little bit more time on the Seahawks, because that is the team that I cover. But we will be trying to review all of the different picks as we go along. And one or two of you may have noticed the new background. Can you see that? How good is that? That is from my good friend Scott Taylor, who plays for Hull FC in the Super League, a rugby league professional, who is a big Denver Broncos fan. And he sent me that in the post today, along with this. Let's see if you can see this. A Russell Wilson Man of the Year playing card. How generous of him. I enjoy a bit of banter. We all do over here in the UK. So, without further ado, let's bring up the old Pro Football Network Mock Draft Simulator. It is the best mock draft simulator on the internet. I am told that it has been updated in the last 24 hours. So I've not had a go on it since the update, but I'm looking forward to doing that. And when the update is a little bit better, I can see that it has Malik Willis ranked as the 5th best player in the draft. Not sure I agree with that, but when it gets updated, it is generally the best one on the internet. So go and check it out. Right. I've posted this mock draft in full on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. So if you miss anything, if you just want to see it in a great big list form, you will find it on there. But I'm going to talk. The great thing about doing it like this is I'm going to talk about every single pick as we go along. So first pick, I am going to go with Travon Walker to the Jaguars at number 1. Why have I gone for Travon Walker at the Jaguars at number 1? There was a report recently from Tony Pauline suggesting that this is a possibility. You know, it's not something that has really been talked about up until now. Not entirely surprised that it has happened, though, because he has got the arm length. He's got the explosive traits. He's got the quickness. He can play in a variety of different positions. We saw that at Georgia. He can line up as an outside linebacker. He can play off the edge. They moved him inside. They had him drop in coverage. He's basically a Swiss Army knife in terms of how you want to deploy him. He's going to be useful for all schemes. People say, well, what about his production? That wasn't particularly great at Georgia. Partly the reason for that is they moved him around so much. And I think if you keep him on the edge, I think he can create pressure off the edge. I think if you want to move him inside and almost as an inside-out rusher, he can do that as well. But this is a draft without a clear number 1 overall pick. And teams are going to look at this and they're going to weigh up who's the best scheme fit, who has the best physical profile, who ticks the most boxes. And as good as Aiden Hutchinson is, and he is really, really good, Travon Walker has got the potential to be outstanding too. And maybe just things like the arm length, little things like that, can separate two players in a tiebreaker. So Travon Walker, for me, the number 1 overall pick in this draft. Not saying it's going to be that way all the way through to the end of April now, but I think there's a decent chance that he could be the first overall pick. If that happens, number 2 is pretty obvious. Aiden Hutchinson will go number 2 to the Lions and stay in the state of Michigan, and everybody over there will love that pick. I'm going to go with Kayvon Thibodeau, number 3. I think he's just too special, too talented. I think someone's going to roll the dice on him. I don't see any reason why he's going to fall to like 9 or 10 like a lot of people are projecting. Okay, maybe his interviews have rubbed a few people up the wrong way. Maybe he has talked about his brand. Maybe he has compared himself to Jadeveon Clowney, and some teams don't like that and they prefer him to compare himself to somebody else. But the fact is, there aren't many people who can do what Kayvon Thibodeau can do on the planet, and someone is going to take a chance on him. I think he fits what the Texans do on defense. He's got the potential to be a very, very good player, potentially the best player from this draft, and I don't think he's going to fall very far. So 3 edge rushers off the board straight off the bat. Let's make it 4. I think that the Jets see their biggest need as pass rush. Carl Lawson's coming back from injury. Is he going to be the same kind of player? Is he a special player? No, I think he's a compliment. I'm going to have them taking Jermaine Johnson. Now, I accept this is maybe a little high for Jermaine Johnson. People I've talked to who know a lot more than I do have said generally he would be pick 10 to 20. That's kind of the range where he would go. But here's the thing. He dominated the Senior Bowl. He ran a 1.5 10-yard split at the combine. He was the guy revving everybody up in the linebacker drills at the combine as well. He had a fantastic season at Florida State on a bad team for the most part. He is a terrific player. Plays the run well, great hands, which is a difference maker for a lot of pass rushers. You know, you can have all the speed in the world. If you don't know how to use your hands, you won't be effective. He's brilliant with his hands. Defends the run well, and he can win off the edge. I think there's every chance that he will go number 4 to the New York Jets. This would be a worst case scenario for Seattle. See if 4 edge rushers go in the first 4 picks, because I think they're going to want to take an edge rusher first. I think it's why they've signed Uchenna and Nwosu, because they anticipate something like this happening, and the guy's just not being there for them at number 9. Number 5 for the Giants, they have stated very clearly that their preference is going to be to try and give Daniel Jones the chance to have a successful season. This new regime is sold on Daniel Jones, as they've perhaps tried to make out. I think they've very much got their eye on the 2023 quarterback class, and I'm going to come on to that in a moment. But whoever is the quarterback for the future, whether it's Jones this year and then it's somebody else, they need to build up their offensive line. They've basically got a franchise left tackle and 4 gaping holes. So you take Evan Neal. I think he's a guard. I think that there's every chance that he could develop into a really good guard, a Brandon Scherf type player. And that's the kind of range where Scherf went. I think you plug him in at guard, he can be a really good player for a long time. Number 6, Carolina. Are they going to take a quarterback? That's what loads of mock drafts are going to be asking. No, they're not. Matt Rule is not for long with this team. The writing's on the wall. Scott Fitterer will outlast the coach. And Scott Fitterer, the GM, is going to be thinking about the long-term future and about what this team's going to be 5 years down the line, not what they are in 2022. Let's be honest, whatever the Carolina Panthers do, they ain't going to be good this year. They're not. So thinking long-term is the right thing. They also don't have any picks in round 2 or 3. This, unless they trade down, this will be their only pick in the first 2 days. So I think they're going to take the best player available. They're going to build. I wouldn't be surprised if grudgingly Baker Mayfield ends up in Carolina down the line, just to have another option there, just somebody that, you know, might be able to sell a few fans who are a bit more intrigued by watching him than they are Sam Darnold. I think that's what's probably going to happen. I'm going to have them take Ike Ekwonu. I'm not a huge fan of his. I think he's a decent player. I don't think he's a top 10 pick necessarily. I think he's also a guard like Evan Neal. I don't think he's an offensive tackle, but that's fine. You know, you can plug him in there. Maybe you try him at tackle first. If it works, great. If not, you're moving inside to guard. I think he can be a really good guard. I don't think he's as good as Evan Neal, but I think certainly those 2 players could be very good guards for the long haul. Number 7, said we'd come on to this. Giants are already touting the pick in the media. They're saying if they can get a 2023 first rounder, swap it for this, they'll do that. Why do they want to do that? Because they want to make sure that they're in the stakes for the quarterbacks next year. If they've got 2 first-round picks next year, they can trade up. The Seahawks will be thinking something similar. Of course, if either team needs to trade up, they might be in position to draft them anyway. Both teams don't look like they're going to be great this year, do they? So there's every chance of that. But if they want to try and trade up, they can do that. And the more picks you've got next year, the better. So I think it's a real positive for the Seahawks that they've got multiple picks next year, and a real problem for someone like the Giants, who they don't want 2 picks this year. They want 2 picks next year. So they're trying to get rid of the pick. They're hoping that someone's going to buy and think the Falcons or the Seahawks are going to take a quarterback. It ain't happening, though. That's why they're talking to the media. That's why they're selling the pick through the media. Don't think it's going to happen. They're going to be forced to pick someone. Just have a sip of tea. Wouldn't be a very British live stream this if I wasn't having a drink of tea during it. Okay, number 7. What could they do? Well, they could take a receiver. It wouldn't be a total surprise if they took someone like Garrett Wilson and, again, tried to build up around the quarterback and create this great platform for him. They've got an offensive head coach in charge. I wouldn't completely rule that out, but they took a first-round receiver last year, admittedly not this GM. They spent $18 million a year on a receiver last year, admittedly not this GM. They might want to get rid of those 2 players and take someone they really like here. That's a possibility. I think what they're going to do is just take the best player on the board, and I think that, to them, may well be Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner will be a fantastic option for the Seahawks at number 9. I've got him coming off the board at number 7, though, to the Giants. And look, they could go in a number of different directions. They could take Kyle Hamilton if they believe that he's the best player available. They could, like I said, they could take a receiver. They might pluck a pass rusher out of somewhere and reach. Who knows? Because they desperately need one of those. They've got some options. But I think Sauce Gardner is the kind of player they're going to trade James Bradbury by the looks of things, or just cut him. I think they're keeping him until the latest possible point. And if they get a replacement like Sauce Gardner, he'll be on the way out. Apparently, the Chiefs are interested in Bradbury, and Gardner will come in. What about the Falcons? Are they going to take a quarterback? No, they're not. I don't think the Falcons are in any rush to jump through this in much the way that the Seahawks aren't in a huge rush. Big thanks to Dan for the super chat, by the way. No message there, but Dan, appreciate your support of the channel. Get those in if you want to, especially if you've got a question. I will come to those as we go along. I know the Falcons are going to take a quarterback. I don't see that there's any point in the Falcons, unless they really love somebody in this draft class. And why would you? Because it's not a quarterback class to love. It's a quarterback class that only a mother can love. I don't think there's any reason why the Falcons would take one at number 8. I think what they're more likely to do is continue to build up their roster, look to next year, maybe take one in the second round. That might well come up in this projection. I think that's what they're going to focus on. A year ago, Terry Fontenot, the GM, made it clear that he's a best player available type GM, and he showed that when he didn't take Justin Fields, and he didn't take Mac Jones at number 4, and everyone was saying this is a rare chance for the Falcons. They've got to take a quarterback now. Prepare for life after Matt Ryan. They said no. And now life after Matt Ryan's here, and it's Marcus Mariota. So I think they're going to take the best player available. I think they're going to take Kyle Hamilton. I think he may well be their best player available at this spot, and I think they'll take him and be pretty happy with that. So that brings us on to number 9 and the Seahawks. They've seen the top 4 pass rushers go off the board. I have had so many people tweeting at me, sending messages on the blog saying, they've got to take an offensive tackle. They've got to take an offensive tackle. No, they don't. I think they're going to take an offensive tackle in free agency. I think between now and the draft, they're either going to bring back Dwayne Brown or they're going to sign Eric Fisher. And I think they will see that as a job done for now. It buys them a bit of time. Charles Cross is not worth the number 9 pick. I think he'll go in the first round. He's not worth number 9. Don't just take my word for it. Daniel Jeremiah's got him in the 20s in his latest top 50 board today. Charles Cross is not and has never been a top 10 pick at left tackle. He doesn't have the size. He doesn't have the athletic profile. He's pass protecting in the air raid, and he basically just has to get in the way in a short amount of time before the quarterback's got the ball out, and they do it over and over and over again. You cannot project Charles Cross to number 9. Now, Trevor Penning has got a top 10 athletic profile, 6'7", 325 pounds, explosive, agile. He's got the athletic profile. But there are so many issues, technical flaws on tape. Go and watch the Senior Bowl reps 1v1. He's given up the inside counter. The pass rushers saw it. He tried to compensate because he was getting beat on the inside counter over and over again. So then what the pass rushers were doing was like fading to the inside, then converting speed to power, driving him off the spot. He would lose balance. He couldn't re-anchor. It's a problem. And then he started getting beat off the edge. Trevor Penning has got a lot of potential, but he's got to work it out. And I don't want to take a tackle at number 9 who has to work it out and may never work it out and might have to kick inside to guard, which, by the way, is what Trevor Penning did at the Senior Bowl. They put him at right guard for a number of snaps just to see. If I'm taking a left tackle at number 9, I want a left tackle. I want a starting quality left tackle. I want a starting quality player at whatever position you take at number 9, tackle or whatever. So I'm not going down that route. I think they're going to try and build up the defense. I think they'll want one of the pass rushers. They're all gone. The top 4 are gone. I think they'll pivot to cornerback. I think you've seen that with, and I've talked about this on the blog, they've signed a hedge at pass rusher because I think they anticipate this situation. That's why they've paid Uchenna and Wosu $9.5 million a year. That's the most expensive outside free agent signing the Seahawks have made under Carroll and Schneider. And they've done that for a reason. Their hedge at cornerback is $2 million on Artie Burns. It's pretty clear what the difference is there. So they've taken the hedge for corner, but it's a lot cheaper. He's dispensable. He can come and compete. You need depth at cornerback. They didn't have any depth last year. Nothing wrong with having some depth at corner. Trey Brown's coming back. He may need to take his time. He might not be ready for camp for all we know. Who knows? So they needed some depth. They've got some cheap depth. What they haven't got is a quality starter. People will say Carroll and Schneider have not drafted quarterbacks early. I take that on board completely. They've never been in a position in the top 10 to draft a world-class cornerback. They just haven't. They've had one top 10 pick in their entire time here, and there wasn't a cornerback worth taking with number 6 overall, and there was a left tackle worth taking. There was a couple, and they took one, Russell Okung. Now, at number 9, there are 2 brilliant cornerbacks potentially worth taking. Sauce Gardner's gone, Derek Stingley. Pete Carroll has a great connection with Ed Orgeron, former LSU coach. He's going to get all the information he needs from Derek Stingley, and I believe that information will be very, very positive. Carroll loves top recruits. He's talked about it over the years. He was talking about it with Jacob Eason, top recruit in the country at quarterback, when they signed him. Carroll's from USC. He knows the importance of recruiting, and I think he places a lot on that sort of talent aspect of seeing players who are just destined for greatness from the off. And he likes to take a chance on those players. And I think with Derek Stingley, who 2 years ago was considered a top 3 lock in the draft, he will see a player who usually wouldn't be there for the Seahawks, but he is now. And I think they're going to take a chance on him in this situation. I think they will. One other thing, they've switched to a 3-4. Check out the interview with Jim Levitt, which is on my YouTube channel. You can hear it on Spotify, and you can hear it on Apple Podcasts as well. Go and look for the Rebuild the Seattle Seahawks podcast. He was saying in the 3-4, a lot of pressure on cornerbacks to defend on an island because you commit your front 7 into the box. Secondary has to cover. If you're going to blitz, you're going to pressure. If you're going to bring Jamal Adams a lot of pressure on those cornerbacks. If you want to be aggressive, they've got to be good. They've got to be able to cover. That's very different than just saying to your cornerbacks, don't get beat over the top, which is what they used to do. If they are switching to the 3-4, and why else would they be having Sean Desai and Clint Hurt and getting rid of Carlos Dunlap and all these other guys and bringing in outside linebackers from a 3-4 system in Nwosu if they weren't switching to more 3-4 concepts? So I think there's every chance they'll go cornerback. I'm not guaranteeing it or anything. If Jermaine Johnson was there, I think they'd take him instead. If those guys are gone, and even if they're not, I think there's a chance that Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley could be the pick there. Okay, let's rattle through some of these picks then and get back to the Seahawks at the end of round 2. Let's look at New York Jets. I've got to taking Garrett Wilson here. He ran so well, a lot faster than I expected. The Jets need a weapon. If they don't trade for one before the draft, I think there's every chance they'll look at someone like Garrett Wilson here. Washington at number 11. Stick with the theme. They're in a tough spot here, Washington. You know, the defensive lineman, I think Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt might be the best 2 players on the board here, but that's the last position that Washington need to invest in their defensive line. They brought in Carson Wentz. They kind of have Terry McLaurin. I think the rest of their receiving options are a little bit overrated. Well, go and get Scary Terry Mark II from the same school. Chris Olave could be an option here. I think Jameson Williams is the best receiver in the draft, but that ACL injury might just mean that he lasts a little bit longer. Minnesota, I think they're in a good position here. They can take the best player available. And that, for me, is Jordan Davis. Go and plug inside that defensive line. I think just the talent's too good there. Number 13, the Texans are desperate for a cornerback. And having not taken one at number 3, which they could do, I just think it works out better for them to take pass rusher first, cornerback second. They'll get a more talented duo. Trent McDuffie here. You see, the thing about Trent McDuffie is I can imagine him in the Patriots defense, and they are basically Patriots, Texas. I know Lovie Smith's not from the Patriots tree, but the people who are actually making the decisions are all from the Patriots. 14 Baltimore. This is where I'm going to have Trevor Penning coming off. I think this is the kind of range where you can justify. I think top 10 is a little bit rich, but I think he will be a top 15 pick. And I think someone like Baltimore, if he ends up at guard, it doesn't really matter for them in the, sort of the mid-first. I think they have a left tackle as well. You know, if you're drafting him to be our left tackle, you need him to be a really good left tackle. They could put him at right tackle. They could put him at right guard. There's a few options there for Baltimore. 15 Philadelphia, the first of their 3 picks. I'm not doing any trades, by the way, this time. Just running through the list. there's no way Devontae Wyatt's the 36th best player in this draft. I've got him a lot higher than that. Devontae Wyatt there at number 15. Number 16 for the Eagles. They love speed. They need a receiver. Jameson Williams has got the speed. I think he's a perfect fit for what the Eagles like to do. I think you put him with Devonta Smith there on the offense, you've got a real chance to put up a lot of yards, put up a lot of points. Number 17, the Chargers. They could go in a number of different directions here. People say they've got a right tackle need. Could they go for a Charles Cross? Still not for me. I think there's better players on the board here. Could they go for, one of the defensive tackles? Could they, move up for Jordan Davis has been suggested by Tony Paulie, and I think there's a real prospect to that. But I've got them taking, I think, somebody who I've warmed to because of the potential and the profile. I thought his I'll get there in the end. His Senior Bowl was a little bit overrated, Zion Johnson. But you just can't deny it. He looks the part. He's tested brilliantly. He's agile. He's explosive. He's got 34-inch arms. He's going to be a top 20 lock, in my opinion. I think his absolute floor is 21 to the New England Patriots. Players like Zion Johnson, with his character, his physical profile, and the position he plays offensive line, they go very, very early. He's going to go very early. He's going to go at number 17. Saints have lost their left tackle. I'm going to have them taking Charles Cross here. I think this is the kind of range where he would go, although I wouldn't be surprised if he lasted into the 20s. Eagles back on the clock. Number 19, Boya Mafe, terrific player, very athletic. They don't tend to worry too much about arm length in Philadelphia. I think he'd be a really good option for them. Could be a long-term successor to Brandon Graham. 20, Pittsburgh. This is when I think the quarterbacks will come off the board. Remember, I had that chat with Scott McLuhan. When was that? Like 10 days ago now. He was saying that 3 will come off the board in the first round. Second half of the first round, none will be ready to start. This is where I think they start coming off the board. This is the place for me. Malik Willis has got some real technical flaws. You see it on tape. He will not throw over the middle. At any sign of even the remotest bit of pressure, he bails on the pocket and tries to run, make plays as a runner. That's why he had 51 sacks last season. In one season alone, he has technical issues. I don't like his base. I don't think he squares his shoulders. I think that he could telegraph some throws. He pats the ball before pretty much every throw. I think all of these things you need to work on. He needs to go and spend a year working behind the scenes. I think this would be a good situation for them because Steelers brought in Mitch Trubisky. Say what you want about Trubisky. He can hold the fort for a year, whatever. Willis can work on that technique issue. He can learn the offense. I think that would be the ideal situation for him. Somewhere he can sit for a year without a great deal of pressure. Obviously, if Trubisky plays like crap, there's going to be pressure on him to start from the fans. But, that's going to be up for, I think Mike Tomlin's a coach who can handle that situation and deal with it. And, for me, this is the ideal situation for Willis. They might move up a little bit to make sure they get him. I don't know if they'll have to. I think number 20 is a good spot for him. New England here at 21, they've got a whole bunch of needs. They've had a very confusing offseason. Spent a whole bunch of money a year ago, and they've done pretty much absolutely nothing this offseason. And I don't know why, because it's not like they've got a ton of picks like in the first 2 rounds here to go and fill some of their needs, but they do have some. I think they'd love Zion Johnson to be here, but he isn't. I've got them taking a much-needed receiver in Drake London from USC. He hasn't tested yet. I keep seeing him in the top 10. Not buying that until I've seen him test. In this kind of range, I can see someone taking a chance on him. Green Bay, yes, they've traded Devontae Adams, but they generally wait on the receiver position. And Devontae Adams himself was a late second rounder. I think they're going to do that again. I've got them taking Perrion Winfrey at this spot. Very athletic, very explosive. They've lost Za'Darius Smith. Where can they get some extra pass rush from? Stick this guy in the interior, let him cause havoc. He had a great Senior Bowl, ran very well at the combine. Even though he injured his hamstring, he still ran in the 4.8s. Very impressive. 23, Arizona. They've lost Chandler Jones. They haven't replaced him. Arnold Ebiketie has tested very well. He's got the length. Good fit for them here at 23. 24, Dallas. Another edge rusher. Sam Williams. They've been connected to him quite a lot recently. He just seems like the kind of player that Jerry Jones will take a chance on. He feels like a cowboy to me. And the way that he's tested as a first-round physical profile, I won't be surprised if he finds his way into the first round. Don't think there are many teams that will take him in the first round. I think Dallas is one of those, though. Buffalo at 25. A player that continues to fly under the radar, which is why he's ranked 83rd, which is ridiculous. I mean, all of the rankings are ridiculous. Leo Chanel, Bray Walker, and Channing Tindall, all ranked between 80 and 100. Is crazy. Walker has got a chance to win the first round, as have the other two, frankly. I think Walker here, just a terrific player. The kind of player who goes in the 20s and just has a very good career. Solid, maybe unspectacular, but very, very solid, and gets a second contract. Tennessee at 26. This one, if there's any Titans fans out there, I can imagine them sort of going, what the hell are you doing? But I don't know. It's just, how much longer is Ryan Tannehill going to be the answer for the Titans? And, they re-signed their edge rusher. They've kind of got a lot of pieces that they need already. They just laid an egg when it came to the playoffs. They're a good team. I think in this kind of range, I could see them taking a shot on a quarterback. And again, you bring somebody in, they don't have to start straight away. There'll be no pressure on them. Then they're not going to expect to be bad next year to be in the mix for the 2023 quarterbacks, which makes this class more tempting. They might think that, I can imagine Vrabel really liking Matt Corral's personality and thinking, we'll take him here, we'll stash him for a year or two, we'll work on him, and we'll try and find an answer for the long haul. I don't know. Tannehill must be, he went in the 2012 draft. He'd been playing receiver at Texas A&M, and then he switched. He must be at least as old as Russell Wilson is now. Is he going to go on and on and on for another 2-3 years? Who knows? I think Matt Corral could be an upgrade if you manage him properly. I could see the Titans doing something like this at the end of the first round. And this is where Scott McCloughan told us he thinks Corral will go between 20 and 32. 27, Tampa Bay. Jason Pierre-Paul is gone. I will have them taking George Karlaftis, another edge rusher. They took Joe Tyron a year ago, so they might feel like he can just slot in there and not take another edge, but you can never have too many pass rushers. Some people really like Karlaftis. I think he's probably late first, second, but if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really like him, they might see a lot of value here. 28, Green Bay, one of my favorite players who's been hugely underrated, Abraham Lucas. None of the offensive linemen worked out better than Abraham Lucas at the Combine. He was the best performer on the on-field drills, and the NFL Network never mentioned him once. Everything he did was fantastic. I think teams will have noticed that, even though the media certainly hasn't. And I think he deserves more attention. I've heard so much about Charles Blummin Cross and Tyler Smith and people like this, and nowhere near enough about Abraham Lucas. Fantastic prospect, deserves more attention. This would be a great pick for the Packers, I think, in this kind of range. Kansas City at 29. What do Kansas City do? They draft athletic traits every single year. Big time upside. They take a chance on it. Few players have bigger upside than Travis Jones. Could go a lot earlier than this. I think he could be a surprise pick for the Chargers in the middle of the first round. I think this is great value and a great pick for the Chiefs. Talking of value and a great pick for the Chiefs, I think David Ojabo is a good spot here for the Chiefs. Yeah, he's got the Achilles injury. He would have been a top 15 pick, I think, otherwise. Top 20 worst case. They've kept Frank Clark. That's a short-term situation, though, keeping him for this year. You put Ojabo on the roster, get him healthy, develop him. Next year, breakout potential season, and you've got a player who could have gone in the top 15 far later. I think I like that match. I really like that match at the end of the first round, the Chiefs and David Ojabo. 31, Cincinnati. I've got him taking Kaya Elam from Florida. Bengals need a corner. They love to take players like Elam. I think it's a good fit between team and player. And then 32, the final pick in the first round. What are the Lions going to do? Not sure. I could see them taking Kenny Pickett here. Some teams are going to like Pickett. They're going to like his character, his personality. I think he's a good fit for the offense. Again, doesn't have to start straight away like the other two guys. They've got a bit more upside. Pickett could come in and compete with Goff straight away. I just, the Lions have got 3 picks in the top 34, and I could see them buying a ticket at quarterback. I could just see that, just to add a bit of competition there, make things interesting for Hard Knocks. I could see them maybe taking a quarterback. And look, they need receivers. I get it. They're going to have plenty of opportunities to get receivers. They've got another pick in 2 picks' time. Right, on to round 2, Jacksonville. People have kind of soured on Greg Dulcich. I don't really know why. He kind of suddenly, the Senior Bowl and the Combine, he was being talked about as a high second rounder, and then without anything happening, he had a great pro day. He looked superb. It's kind of dropped again. Don't really understand what that's all about, unless there's just something doing the rounds within league circles that we just don't know about. But I still like him, and I still think a great fit for Doug Peterson's offense. Go and get a really dynamic, athletic tight end for the Jaguars. They had that in Philadelphia, and I just think that's the kind of player that Doug Peterson wants for his offense. They seem to be doing everything they can to build around Trevor Lawrence. They've spent big on receiver, obviously. I think getting an athletic tight end for that offense as well as a safety valve, very important. I don't think Dulcich will be there at the top of round 3. I could see them taking him here. Maybe they trade down first. I'm not sure. Look, I'm not saying it's guaranteed. They could do other things. They could take Trey McBride. They could take a completely different position. I get it. I think their center retired this week. I've got them taking a center at the top of round 3. But they could take one here. Absolutely. That's possible. But I just think the fit with Doug Peterson and the athletic tight ends, and I think Dulcich is clearly the number 1. I think they might just take him here. Lions at 34, as mentioned, they need to get receivers. I really like this guy, Christian Watson, North Dakota State, quick, very talented, heart and soul type player, gritty, great fit for the Lions, fills a big need, their type of receiver. Jets at 35, I'm going to have them taking Lewis Seen here. Incredibly athletic. Robert Sala's worked in Seattle, where they had a really dynamic, aggressive, strong safety who set the tone. Lewis Seen did that for Georgia. He'd be a great pick for Robert Sala's defense. 36 in the Giants. Time for the centers to come off the board. I think Cam Jurgens will be the first center taken. And people will go, well, why can you say that, Rob? Tyler Linderbaum's a top 10 pick. Tyler Linderbaum's never been a top 10 pick. And if you think I'm just saying this now because, he's not worked out at the Combine. No, I've been saying this since the summer. He is a very scheme-specific player. He's well under 300 pounds. He has short arms. He does a lot of things well, but he's just not going to fit certain teams. What's Cameron Jurgens? Over 300 pounds. 33.5-inch arms. Very explosive. One of the most explosive testers we've seen in the last decade on the offensive line. Great agility. Ran a short shuttle in the 4.4s. Aggressive playing style and good tape. He ticks every single box. Linderbaum's a good player. He ticks half the boxes. Jurgens is a good player. He ticks all the boxes. I don't see why Linderbaum would go ahead of Cameron Jurgens. I'm not saying that this is definitely the way it's going to go. I just think Cam Jurgens for me, is the top center. And Cole Strange maybe is in the equation for number 2 with Linderbaum. That's how I see it. They're just bigger, longer, stronger, more explosive, more athletic. And until Linderbaum tests, he hasn't tested because he's got an injury, I could see him lasting a bit. Daniel Jeremiah posted a new top 50 today. He had Linderbaum at number 30. It is not beyond the realms of possibility that players fall. We saw DK Metcalf fall to the 64th pick in the draft. Who saw that coming? I was a bit surprised that Jonathan Taylor lasted as long as he did, given the way that he tested. Look how long Creed Humphrey lasted last year. Another short-arm center. So just saying, we assume certain things about certain players, then you do a little bit of digging, you look at athletic profiles, you let teams sort of do the homework on these players, they get proper testing numbers, things can change. Players stay on the board. A lot of people thought Christian Barmore was a top 20 pick last year. He went 39 overall. A lot of people thought Tevin Jenkins was a first-round lock. He went, I think, 38 overall. So players last longer than you think. Anyway, we'll talk about Linderbaum again in a minute. Texans at number 37. Okay, I've got them taking a receiver here. One of the most underrated players in the draft. This is why I'm having to go all the way down the list to find him. My word. He's ranked as the 282nd receiver in this board for Pro Football Network. I've got him as the 37th best player. I think he's massively underrated. He's going to go in the second round. He's too big, too fast, too good. And I think he's got special qualities. I think there are a few receivers who have special qualities in this draft. Kevin Austin Jr. is a player who jumps off the page. Jets at 38, apparently, they really like Treylon Burks. Now, they've already taken one receiver very early on. I've got them taking another one here. You have got to build weapons around Zach Wilson. They've taken a couple of tight ends in free agency. Go and get a couple of great receivers, well, great receivers, potentially great receivers. A quicker guy, a bigger guy, downfield threats. Wilson is at least, a chain mover as well. I think that is how you build around your quarterback. You've invested a lot in your offensive line. Now you go and get him some weapons. I could see them doing this. I could see them going and getting one of the better running backs in this draft and taking them here. Potentially, I think that is the way to go for the Jets. They've got to try and produce players, put them around their quarterback now. Otherwise, he will fail. 39 Chicago. Arguably their biggest need is tackle. Tyler Smith at Tulsa. I'm not a huge fan. I watched the Oklahoma State game again this week, just as a bit of revision. Still not seeing it. Gets beat too often inside. Yes, there are those snaps that you can clip out and put on Twitter where he dumps someone on his backside, plays very aggressive. I'm not buying him personally. I think more round 3 than round 2, but we'll see where he goes. Right, Seahawks at 40. And look, people will go, you've put the number 14 overall player at number 40 to the Seahawks just because you want to give the Seahawks a great player. That is not what I'm doing. I have pushed back against the Tyler Linderbaum hype for months. He is not somebody. I never mocked him in the top 10. I've never had him as high as that. The earliest I've had him is in the late 20s. The last mock draft I did, I had him at 29 to Miami. He is a very scheme-specific center. And only the teams that are willing to have a center who is as small as he is will take him. Who are those teams? They are the Miamis, the San Franciscos, the LAs, the Seattles, the Jets maybe. The Jets are paying $10 million for their center at the moment, Connor McGovern. And the other teams, Miami traded their first pick. San Francisco traded their first pick. LA traded their first pick. Some of these teams aren't picking at all in the second round. San Francisco's at the end of the second round. They're not in range. And teams who just aren't prepared, and look, I'm going back and say, why have you got Cam Jurgens first? The Giants GM and coach are from the Bills. They paid Mitch Morse a fortune to be their center. He's a big guy with long arms and he's explosive. It's a different type of player. Are the Jaguars willing to have a small center? Probably they are. Because Doug Peterson worked with Jason Kelsey. Kind of inherited him though. But I don't really know what their preference is. If Trent Baalke's making the decisions, it may be that they have a much bigger center in mind. Because when he was in the Niners, they kind of had Mike Solari type offensive lineman there. So, this is the kind of thing you have to think of. You have to think about scheme. You have to think about the injuries and the fact that he hasn't tested and certain players fall. Look, I was really surprised Max Unger lasted to the distance where he did, and then the Seahawks traded up and got him in 2008. I was really surprised that DK Metcalf lasted as long as he did. As I said, Jonathan Taylor, a couple of years ago, really surprised he lasted as long as he did. An amazing combine. Sometimes players fall. And the Seahawks have just signed Austin Blythe to a 1-year, $4 million deal. And he is practically the same size as Tyler Linderbaum. I think there's a 2-pound difference in weight, and they've got the same arm length. The Seahawks are adjusting to the LA Rams blocking scheme. Andy Dickerson and Shane Waldron are going to be running the show. They are getting personnel that fit that scheme now. I think they're going to adjust to that. It's going to take a bit of time, but I think there's going to be a transition over 2 years where they do that. And the Blythe signing is a tell. And look, that is a hedge. It was a 1-year deal. Yeah, 4 million is perhaps more expensive than people expected. But maybe there was other teams bidding for him, and they just thought, we're going to make this happen. We need this guy. Well, at the very least, we need this guy. So he knows the calls. He knows the terminology. He can start day one. If they need to play a game tomorrow, he knows the terminology. That might be worth an extra $1 million to them. I think if that's how you view it, I think it's completely justifiable. And they brought Austin Blythe in. I think the Seahawks will be a team that are looking at Linderbaum and thinking, we can have a guy like that. And I won't be surprised if they trade back into the late first to go and get him. And if they trade DK Metcalf and end up with another first-round pick or 35 and 38, again, I could imagine Tyler Linderbaum being a target even earlier than this, because this is the kind of center that they're looking for. So just saying, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that he falls. He's a scheme fit. He's not going to be a scheme fit for others. And I think the Seahawks will really, really want him based on the signing they've already made at center, which is Austin Blythe. So just throwing it out there. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. I don't think it's as unrealistic as some people will think in the comment section when this video is being watched by fans of other teams because listen, so many people have kind of talked about this draft and said Linderbaum's a top 10 lock, or just take Linderbaum at 10, or just take Linderbaum at 5, just take him at 15 or whatever. He's never been that. He has never, ever been that type of player. And I think he's late first, early second. I've got him going early second into the Seahawks. Right, on to 41. I think this pick, if he's still there, is straightforward. I can imagine the Seahawks trading down from this spot, by the way. I think they will want an extra pick in rounds 3 or 4. It's that kind of draft. But I could see them taking Channing Tindall here. Great short shuttle, 42-inch vertical, 4.4 speed. Fantastic player. For me, an absolute blinding draft pick to replace Bobby Wagner. I think that's what they need. Aggressive, flies around the field. Watch his tape. Watch the way he goes from 0 to 60 in no time at all. Sprints from sideline to sideline, hammers people. That's what they need. And he doesn't have to start straight away. They brought Jordan Brooks along very slowly as a rookie. Gave him some time. Cody Barton could play initially. Watch the special teams play. If you look for it on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find it. Channing Tindall, Senior Bowl. Type that in. He comes flying in on a kick coverage, hammers somebody. That's what you're getting with Channing Tindall. Terrific player. Indianapolis, one of my favorite players. Underrated. I'm convinced he's going to be well down the board here. Damari Mathis, someone I've come late to the party to, watched him last week. Amazing player. Speed, length, aggressiveness, tackling, a superb cornerback. And the Colts love taking very athletic players. Atlanta 43. Building blocks for the Falcons. I've got them taking a running back here. Breece Hall. Been reading things about, where people see the running backs going. The consensus in the league seems to be that Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker are first-round types that will go in the early second round. So Breece Hall at 43 to the Falcons. Don't rule out the Seahawks taking a running back early either. I know a lot of people will hate it, but, I was having a look actually the other day. I think I've got the statistic here that, let me find it. So in the most recent season, 2021 season, 11 of the 14 playoff teams have taken a running back in the first 2 rounds in the recent history. I mean, that's not saying that's why they're there. I'm not making that argument at all. I just found it interesting that 11 out of 14 had taken a running back in the first 2 rounds. So, even if you take nothing from that and don't give the running backs any credit at all, which is fair, in some cases they wouldn't have done anything. In other cases, they will. If you just take that, the good teams who are succeeding in this league are thinking there's some value in taking running backs early. That's all I'm saying. And then the year before, it was 9 out of 14. So just something to consider there. Pick 44 for the Cleveland Browns. I've got them taking value. And I'm going to have them taking Leo Chenal. I think he's explosive, he's quick, will be a great option for the Seahawks as well with their line, when they do take a linebacker, which they will eventually. Baltimore at 45, load up that offensive line. Cole Strange, great Senior Bowl. Very explosive tester, one of the best explosive testers in a long time. There's a few I've said that about so far. It's true. He's going to go in the second round. 46 Minnesota, a player who has fallen a little bit because of the way he ran at the combine. I still think Kyler Gordon's a very good player. Someone will take a chance on him. 47 Washington. I've got them taking Devin Lloyd. A little bit overrated. They need middle linebacker badly. Nothing spectacular about him physically. I think he will stay on the board longer than people think. 48 Chicago. Give him some more offense. Tackle with their first pick. Jahan Dotson with their second. A receiver for Justin Fields. New Orleans. Could go in a number of different directions. Give him Kenneth Walker. Alvin Kamara still got that legal case hanging over his head. Could there be a suspension involved there? They've often liked to use two backs, a power back, a bigger back, and then Kamara. Walker would be a great 1-2 punch there. And then you've taken a tackle and a running back. You're supporting around Jameis Winston, who I think they're going to give every chance to try and do a good job for them this year. Kansas City at 50, again, looking after those big athletic talents. Tariq Woolen. Bit stiff, has everything though in terms of speed, explosive traits, length, size, kind of traits that Kansas City love to draft. 51 Philadelphia. Speed, speed, speed for them. Doesn't matter what the position is, they love speed. Christian Harris ran a 4.4. Not massively impressed with his tape, but I could see them going for him here just because they need that position and he's very, very quick. Pittsburgh at 52. This for me is a very Pittsburgh style draft pick. Nick Cross is going to go in round 2. 125 is a joke, really. He's going to go in round 2. Incredible speed, headhunter, hammers people. Just a fantastic Steelers kind of player. Green Bay at 53. Give them a bit more offense. This is where I'm going to have them drafting some targets. Trey McBride, very good blocker. Hasn't run a 40 yet, I think I'm right in saying, which is a bit worrying, but because he did all the drills and everything, he's kind of just hiding a little bit there. That's going to hurt his stock a little bit. New England at 54. Bernard Ryman here. I don't think he's a tackle. His arms are too short. But I think he could plug him in at guard. And that, you kind of make life a bit easy for him as well because his technique's not very good. Make life easy for him, kick him inside. I think that's a good place for him there with the New England Patriots. Who is next? Arizona. Cornerback, big need. Like Roger McCreary. Good value here. Small, short arms. Very competitive, though. Dallas at 56. Keep giving them defenders. Logan Hall. Aggressive, quick, great short shuttle. Arm length not as good as expected, but could be a fantastic inside-out rusher or 3 technique. Buffalo at 57. Player who I think is quite overrated. Apparently he's going to run a 4.6 when he eventually does run. That will send him down the boards a bit. Andrew Booth, the Clemson cornerback. Atlanta back on the clock here. 58. I'm going to have them taking Desmond Ridder. I think they are going to take a shot at a quarterback in the second round. And I don't think there's anything special about Ridder. I guess you could say he's quite similar in stature to Marcus Mariota. And therefore they may well take a chance on him here, see if they can develop him. And if not, and it all goes wrong, well, who cares? You take a quarterback in the next draft anyway. They're probably going to be picking very early, so there's every chance of that. 59 Green Bay. This is where I've got them taking a receiver. Got a lot of options. I think you could pick any of these guys. David Bell's too early. He ran too poorly. I've got him undrafted free agent now. I'm going to have them Jalen Tolbert. I just think he's reliable. He's consistent. I think he's a really good player. I think he could earn Aaron Rodgers' trust very, very early. I think that would be a terrific pick for them at 59. Bucks back on the board at 60. I really like this guy. And I don't know why he's down here. Brian Cook, I think he's just too good in this range. I think you take him there. I know they've taken Logan from the Patriots, but I think Brian Cook could win that job and steal it from him. 61, San Francisco, player that I think is quite underrated. Jalen Amore Davis, Rolls Royce at cornerback. I know they've signed a cornerback at great expense, but I think they need more. 62, Kansas City. They have signed a center in free agency, but they love their athletes. And Jaquan Brisker is another one. And, a lot of teams are sort of using these hybrid safeties. I think he could be that at the moment with his size and his testing. I think he'd be the kind of pick that Kansas City take at the end of the second round. Maybe they go for a receiver instead. I don't think I've given them one yet, but they have signed some receivers, and let's not forget they still already had some, even though they traded away Tyreek Hill. 63 Cincinnati, last couple of picks of the second round. I think this could be a range where we see, where is he? Josh Pichal come off the board. Is he a fit for them? Could he play inside out, potentially? One of the defensive tackles are off the board, though, so they might trade down in this spot here, and then they might have a look at somebody else. Thomas Booker in round 3, maybe. That would be justified. Matthew Butler, perhaps. DeMarvin Leal could be an option for them. But I've got him taking Josh Pichal, a bit of an inside-out type. Final pick in the second round. A player, I just can't work him out. I really struggle to work out Nick Bonito. What is he? Is he just an undersized yet dynamic edge? Is he just someone who's going to be washed out every single time? I can't get an angle on him, on how good he is. I don't know. I mean, I've got him going here, but I'm not confident about it. But it's the end of the second round in a mock draft, so who cares? Right, so that's the second round. I'm not going to do a full third round, but I am going to sort of go up to Seattle's pick and then talk about that, talk about some of the other players I've had them taking later on, and then wrap it up. If you have got any other super chats to send in, get them in now. Then I'll do a very quick Q&A, and we'll wrap this thing up. So let's quickly go through round 3. 65, mentioned that I'd got the Jaguars taking a center. Zach Tom, is he listed as a center on this, or is he listed as a tackle? He's probably going to be listed as a tackle. Find him there. He's far better than 177 overall. 66 for Detroit, a player that I'm just not buying, frankly. He's 5'11" and 229 pounds. He's not done any testing at his pro day or combine. I think that Kobe Dean's going to last a lot longer than people think. 67 for the Giants. Drake Jackson. Size goes up and down. What is he? Is he an outside backer? Is he an end? Not sure, but someone in round 3 is going to take a chance on him. He tested pretty well at the USC's pro day. Still not on a 40, though, which is a little bit concerning. He did all the other runs and the drills and everything at the USC pro day. So I was raised as a question mark when he does everything but run a 40. But he says he is going to do one before the draft. 68 Houston. I don't understand why Kenyon Green is ranked at 29, gets projected in top 50s, and gets projected in the first rounds of mock drafts. I don't get it. He has none of the traits. He's not explosive. He's not athletic. He can't jump. He can't move. He is just a big guard. That's it. That's all he is. I have no idea why he's being talked up. He's very scheme specific. He is not in any way, shape, or form a high pick in terms of his physical traits. 69 to the Jets. Then they're going to try and do the whole Fred Warner thing here and find value at linebacker. And I think Troy Anderson could be someone that Robert Saleh really likes. Jacksonville back on the clock again. Let's give him a cornerback. Just because I like Cam Taylor-Britt, I want to get him off here. Very physical, very quick, very exciting player. 7-1 Chicago. The penultimate pick. I've got them taking a receiver. I really like Wan'Dale Robinson. I think he reminds me, it's kind of like a hybrid between Tyler Lockett and Golden Tate. Kind of thick lower body, very quick. I thought for Kentucky, I mean, I have watched a lot of Will Levis, let's be honest. He was going to Wan'Dale Robinson a lot. He really trusted him. So, and on to 72. And the pick that I gave the Seahawks when I was doing my mock draft was someone that I've not really talked about that much. And I'm going to have to find where this has him ranked, because it could be anywhere. And there he is. He's ranked at 234 overall. Logan Bruss. Rob, why have you got Logan Bruss going to the Seahawks in round 3? The reason is, well, first of all, he's very agile. So if they are going to switch to a scheme that is based around more athletic alignment, offensive linemen, then he certainly ticks that box. He's very athletic. I think he ran a 4.5 short shuttle, maybe even a 4.4. So he kind of ticks that box. He's also very explosive. Well, not very explosive. He is explosive. I think he was like a 3.08 in TEF. So he's explosive, and he's quick, and he's agile, and he's athletic. He played right tackle at Wisconsin, and he could play right tackle for the Seahawks. I think he's good enough to play right tackle. I don't think he's going to be an amazing right tackle. I don't think he's going to be Jack Conklin, but I think he could be a decent, solid to average right tackle in the NFL. I think he'd be a really good guard as well. And what did the Rams do? Last year, they had David Edwards, who was a converted tackle from Wisconsin at left guard, and they had Austin Corbett, a converted tackle from Nevada at right guard. And it worked. And they had a small center in Brian Allen. If the Seahawks are trying to recreate that, Logan Bruss is the type of player you consider taking. And then if you want to play him at right tackle because you haven't re-signed Brandon Shell or you've not signed Darrell Williams and you've got a hole there, you can start him at right tackle. If you sign Brandon Shell, you could try Bruss's competition at right tackle, or you could move him inside to guard. And Gabe Jackson, you could trade him for 7th rounder or something like that after June the 1st. You could trade him to someone in camp. I'm sure there'd be a little bit of a market there for him. And you could save something like $4 or $5 million, I think it is. So, look, there are options for the Seahawks. That's if Logan Bruss works out. Or you might just sort of stash him for a year. You might not play him at tackle or guard, but then next year he could fit either role. So I think he is the kind of player that the Seahawks might take in this kind of range. He is their type of player. So just a name to keep an eye on as we're going through this process. So these are the 4 picks that I've got Seattle taking. You will notice there's no pass rusher there. I've got Stingley at cornerback, Linderbaum at center, Tindall at linebacker, Logan Bruss, tackle or guard. This is a foundational quartet of picks. You've got a potential shutdown corner who's got all pro potential. You've got a center who fits your scheme and could fit that scheme very, very well. You've got an explosive, athletic, incredibly aggressive and dynamic linebacker in Channing Tindall who gets after ball carriers, flies around the field. And you've got a guard or tackle prospect who fits what you're looking for. You've got building blocks there. Now, you haven't got a pass rusher, but that's why you sign Uchenna and Nwosu. And you potentially start him instead. And then what I did when I did my 7th rounder, which is on SeahawksDraftBlog.com, you can see all of the Seahawks picks on there. There's a lot more detail on these guys. Is I took D'Angelo Malone at 109. So he was 235 pounds at the Senior Bowl, and he got after people. He showed good strength. He wasn't overawed despite a lack of size. He looked good. He turns up at the combine. He's added 10 pounds, and he chooses not to run. I'm guessing because he spent the month gaining weight and not a month practicing running in a straight line, which is fair enough. I understand that. I thought he looked good with the extra weight. I thought he looked like a Seahawks edge. I thought he looked the part. But he's a super senior, so he's older. He has gained weight, and people haven't seen him playing with this extra weight. And all of those little things, and he hasn't run a 14, he hasn't really done any testing. So if that's the same by the time he gets to the draft, instead of going round 3, he might go round 4. And then you throw him into the mix, into the rotation. Would I rather have Jermaine Johnson at number 9 and then take a cornerback somewhere else? Yeah, I probably would. But Jermaine Johnson, I don't think is going to be there at number 9. And I think Derek Stingley's got amazing potential. And I think you have to play the cards you dealt with in a draft sometimes. You don't force it. As soon as you start forcing things, that's when you end up with LJ Collier. So I think that D'Angelo Malone at 109 makes sense. At 152, I had them taking Jack Cohen. If you prefer Caleb Ellaby, go for it. I like Cohen. I've talked about Jack Cohen. I like the way he runs through his progressions. I like the way that he reads blitzes. I think he's as capable of starting quickly as anybody else in this quarterback class. He's got a decent arm. I think he's definitely not a runner with the football, but can he extend plays? Yeah. Can he make things happen? Yeah. When he's on the run. What else do I like about him? I think his base is good, which he throws from. I think his release is good. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that Virginia Tech game, when they hauled his arse off the field and put the young guy in, and the young guy throws a pick six, and the young guy throws a second interception, and all of a sudden Notre Dame have gone from leading comfortably with Cohen under center to trailing by 8, and they make him go back out there with 4 minutes to try and save the day. And he immediately leads a touchdown drive. and the 2-point conversion, which he gets throwing, and was not an easy throw. I think he had to go on the run to make that completion, and he did it. Tie game. The defense gets a stop. He gets the ball back, leads a field goal drive. Notre Dame wins the game. So I like that about him. Shows he's got some balls. And, if you can get, I don't even know if he's going to be there in the 5th round, frankly. If I had to take him at 109 just to have somebody else into the competition, I'd go for it. And I'd be interested to see how he gets on in a competition with Drew Lock and some of these other guys, Geno Smith or Jacob Eason. And the very worst case scenario, I think he might have a backup for a few years who is better than Geno Smith. So I would consider him. You could throw Caleb Elamy in there too. I just think Cohen's, he's got the size. If you want a point guard, he is a point guard. Is he flawless? No. That's why I've got him going in round 5. He not played a lot of football because he was injured at Wisconsin, and then he had to transfer to Notre Dame, and he's been in and out because they want to try and get the freshmen some snaps. But look, famously, one quarterback in particular didn't play a lot at Michigan either. So there we go. 153, Percy Butler, Louisiana. It's revealed over the weekend. He has got an official 30 visit with the Seahawks. Not surprised. I don't think you draft him to be a safety. You draft him to be a gunner. He is a fantastic special teams gunner. Great attitude, infectious personality. I could see him being drafted in round 5 by the Seahawks to make sure they get him just to crack on there and have him. And then at 230 or 229, I had them taking Zonovan Knight from NC State. He has got the size the Seahawks like at running back, but he hasn't really got quite the explosive traits. But we're talking about round 7 here. His nickname is Bam Knight, as in he hammers people. And that's what the Seahawks love at their running backs. They love collision. They love people who run through contact, get yards after contact. He does that. When he did the drill where you have to sort of step and show off your footwork, they put the pads in like a cross formation, and you have to step in and out of the pads. He did that better than I've ever seen anybody do that drill at the combine. If you look on YouTube for the combine highlights of the running back class, they've got it on there. Go and check it out. It has to be seen to be believed. I'm not sure that he'll be there in round 7, but look, I've had a look online. Generally get 6-round grades. Could be there in round 7, maybe. I wanted to put him down there because who doesn't want a running back called Bam? So that's the mock draft. That's what I've gone for. I'm sure people will have lots of comments saying this and that and the other won't happen. But it is what it is. Everybody's mock draft is going to have some flaws in it. There are going to be some picks you disagree with. There are going to be some picks you're happy with. It's just the way it is. So basically, don't complain at me. I'm just giving you some options there. I like to think that mock draft is a bit different. I promise you I've done my homework on it. I don't think there are going to be that many people out there who've poured over this tape over the last sort of 3-4 months in the way that I have. I've spent a lot of time. I don't just do a weekly mock. I like to spend a lot of time putting this one together. And, most of it's going to be wrong because everybody's mock draft is. But I like to think they create some talking points here, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Right, I'll do a little bit of a Q&A. I can see there's no more extra super chats. So if people want to chuck a question in, I'll probably do maybe another 5 minutes. If you have any questions, either on the mock, on the Seahawks, I think it's going to be, while I'm waiting for those questions to come in, I'll just make a point that what I would recommend people do is, consider what you would do if you traded DK Metcalf when looking at a projection like this. If let's say you get Philadelphia's one of their first round picks, who are you taking instead? Because I think a first and a third from Philadelphia is the kind of trade that makes sense. Who are you taking? And then what do you prefer? The rookie, Zion Johnson, a Boye Mafe, for example, and someone in round 3, maybe a receiver, a running back, whatever. Do you prefer that? Or do you prefer having DK Metcalf plus his $25 million salary? If it's the Jets and it's 35 and 38, do you prefer 2 more players in the top 50? Or for DK Metcalf and his $22 to $25 million? That is the question that I would ask. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I don't think there's anything to be particularly defensive about if someone says, I would trade him. I think that's a valid position to take. And I think it's a valid position to say that you wouldn't consider it. I think it's a real dilemma for the Seahawks. I think from John Schneider's point of view, it's going to be very tempting to have $20 million in the bank to have extra picks at the top of the board and know that this is an exceptional receiver class. I was talking to somebody recently who knows what they are talking about. They said there could be up to 30 receivers in this draft who could have an impact in year one, up to 30. That's how deep the options are. You could get a guy in round 3, round 4, who could come in. I'm not saying he's going to have the impact DK Metcalf would have either as a rookie or this year, but they can come and make some plays for you. These are the kind of things to consider because it's going to be the main debate I think we have leading up to the draft. And I think we're probably a couple of weeks away from finding out what's going to happen here. I think it's going to be a bit of a slow burner, but those are the things that I would consider. Having a look, Nick says, I missed what you said about Tariq Woolen. Look, Tariq Woolen's a bit stiff, but he's got great speed. He has got great testing ability, very explosive, long, a lot of potential there, Nick. But, somebody who probably needs time. I don't think he's got early starter potential. He's going to need a lot of time. But, as physical profiles go, he's got a very good one, but he is quite stiff because he's a big corner and doesn't move quite as well. This one from Nathan says, what do you think of Michael Wright at slot corner? I have not watched Michael Wright, Nathan. Apologies. I think that's it. If nobody else has any other questions, bit of a light Q&A, we will wrap it up for today. Thank you to iWatch. Much appreciated. I'll just give a little plug. There's one more that's just jumped in here. Tim says, thanks, Rob. What do you see in Travon Walker that has led you to mocking to the Hawks less than Thibodeau or Johnson? Well, Tim, I've got him as the number 1 overall pick. That's one of the main reasons why. He's not going to be there. It's as simple as that. He's not going to be there. He will go in the top 5. Travon Walker will go in the top 5. He will not be there at 9. He will not be there at 9. This one's from Nason. It says, I'm personally low on Jermaine Johnson, so can you try and explain his upside as a pass rusher because I think he's great in the run? Or just watch him play. He attacks the edge. His hand use is better than any other pass rusher in this class. It's okay watching players who just win with speed over and over again against overmatched college tackles. They get to the next level and they don't know how to use their hands. And you've got to engage and disengage. You've got to have a repertoire. Jermaine Johnson shows a great ability to use his hands. He wins with a bull rush. He can swim. He can connect, pull, push, disengage around the arc. Speed to power is very, very good. I've not seen a pass rusher in this draft with better hands than Jermaine Johnson. So there's that. He ran a 1.5 10-yard split, which is as quick as there was only he and Thibodeau, I think, who ran that. Oh, and Amari Barno. They were the only 3 players who ran a 1.5 10-yard split. That's an elite split. So he's got quickness and burst and acceleration from a standstill. He explodes off the line. I think he's got massive production. He was fantastic. So, terrific player. Achoro wants to know about Cam Jurgens. I spoke a lot about Cam Jurgens. I'll go back, rewind the video to the top of round 2 when I picked Cam Jurgens. I spent a lot of time talking about him. Noah says, at what price would you keep DK? Well, I mean, I'd keep DK. I might keep DK at $22 million. But I'm torn on it. I don't really have a definitive stance on DK Metcalf. If you said to me, could I have a pick in the teens and consider some of these players that are going to be available there, I'd say, yeah, I'd be well up for that. If you said to me I could have 35 and 38, I'd be up for that. If you said to me they keep DK Metcalf, I'd be up for that. I don't really, I guess I don't really care because they can afford to keep him if they want to pay him, and if they move him, then great, more picks in a great draft. So I'm kind of very flexible on that. Big Mike says, what day will your last horizontal board come out? The day of the draft, but I'm going to post another update this week, and I will keep updating right through to the end. iWatch says, didn't LJ Collier have heavy hands? LJ Collier did have heavy hands, but just because LJ Collier had heavy hands doesn't mean that everybody who has heavy hands is garbage. This one from Daniel says, I don't know if you are aware, but your boy Will Levis got a new head coach, the Rams quarterback coach. So they will run a pro-style offense. I think they did anyway last year. I think the guy who has left them has gone to San Francisco, I think it is. But he was a pro-style coach as well. So they've kind of replaced one pro-style coach with another. Will Levis is a terrific player. People keep bringing up Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, and that's fine. But for me, I'm a Will Levis man. Let's have a look. Jonathan says, do you think they'll bring back Dwayne Brown? Yes, I do. Although also the concern that I have is I think Dwayne Brown hasn't signed a contract with anybody because he's got in his mind an amount that he's willing to play for this year, and I don't think anyone's gone to it. And I think Dwayne Brown's going to do a clowning. If no one pays him what he wants, I don't think he will play for Seattle or anywhere else. I think he's at an age now where he's made his money. If the options are Carolina and Seattle, they're the two teams that have been linked with him. It's not like he's got an option to play for a ring. And if he thinks if I'm going to play for a crap team this year, I'm going to do it for a certain dollar amount or I'm out. And I think that's what's happening. And that's a problem for the Seahawks because they don't have a lot of money. I don't know why they haven't just cut Hugo Amadi, having signed Justin Coleman, create $2.5 million. I'd move on from Chris Carson. But, Amadi's $2.5 million. Just tack it on to whatever you're offering Dwayne Brown right now and go and get that done because you need him back. Because you can draft a right tackle, I think, in this draft, but you don't want to be drafting two tackles. And you don't want to be scraping around the basement bin for tackles. So, yeah, I think they should get that done ASAP, and I don't know why. I don't know why, Tom Brown is not running out of time. He's got all the time in the world. If a guy's prepared to retire rather than not play, he's not running out of time. And whatever Seattle's not got a left tackle, he ain't running out of time either. It's up to Seattle to get that done. It's as simple as that. And if they're not willing to meet his amount, they've got to try and find a compromise. I don't know how you do that. I think if you can afford to bring in Dwayne Brown, you just do it. Just forget all the Baker Mayfield stuff and forget all of that. Just go and get your starting left tackle and bring him back to Seattle. I think we're going to wrap it up there. We've done like an hour and 10, hour 11. Appreciate you all watching along and joining in. Please subscribe to the channel. The subscriptions have been going steadily up over the last few weeks. So appreciate that. If you have not subscribed yet, please make sure you do. Like the video, share it around. If you could also subscribe to the Rebuild podcast on Apple and on Spotify, that would be much appreciated. And if you have subscribed on Apple, could you please leave a nice 5-star review as well? Let's get the word out there. Let's promote this page as much as we can. SeahawksDraftBlog.com if you want more on the mock draft, including a full list version and a Seahawks 7-rounder in full. From me and from Drew Lock, I'll bid you farewell for tonight. We'll be back soon with another live stream and another podcast. Until then, bye for now.